I understand that you were the president of Missio Nexus before you became the president of nexleader. What caused you to change your mind by not continuing to serve with Missio Nexus, but pick up the presidency of nexleader and continue to serve? What something must have motivated you to make that change? Could you share with us?
Yes.
By the way, could you also share with us what Missio Nexus is?
Sure. Missio Nexus is a network.
I will have Bebe to interpret.
Sure.
Bebe, 我刚才讲的你能都记得吗？
好的。
好，你说。
刚刚老师跟我们分享了他写作这本书的目的，然后其实我们知道老师他最先是在 Mission Nexus 这个机构里做负责人，可以说是做主席，但是后来他转到了 nexleader 这个机构里面。那我想问老师说，你是为什么从前面那个机构转到后面那个机构？也请老师介绍一下你前面服侍那个 Missio Nexus 的机构。
Yes, Missio Nexus is a network of mission agencies and churches and training institutions for mission across North America. And I had the privilege of serving as the president and CEO of Missio Nexus for 9 years. It was
give Bebe a chance to interpret. Thanks.
这个 Mission Nexus 这个机构呢，它是主要是服事于这些宣教机构，然后教会或者是这些话语培训，是在北美各个地方有这样的培训。我原来是在这个机构做主席和 CEO， 在那里服侍了9年的时间。
And it was an amazing opportunity. I loved serving in that role.
这是一个很好的机会，我也很享受在那里的服侍。
One of my passions is engaging the next generation of leaders.
我的一个服侍的一个热情，就想要去跟下一代的服侍的领袖来有互动。
And at Missio Nexus, I was able to devote a lot of time and energy to leadership development.
所以在这个Missio Nexus 这个机构里面，我有很多的时间和精力是跟这些领导力方面这方面做服事。
But the leadership development was not with young leaders. It was mostly with senior leaders.
但是领导力发展这个培训呢，基本上主要是针对比较资深的一些领袖，而不是非常年轻的领袖。
And so I made the decision to step away from that role to create some margin in my life to engage in leader development with a focus on the next generation.
所以我就决定暂时离开这个角色，去更多的参与到下一代领导力的培训这样的事工上。
And one of the really rich blessings for me is in my role with nexleader, I actually get to work with many mission organizations that were part of Missio Nexus.
其中一个很大的祝福是，当我来到第二个这个机构的时候，我其实有很多机会跟前面那个机构的里面的宣教机构进行合作服事。
But the focus of my engagement with them is much more leader development specific, and it gives me the opportunity to invest in the next generation.
我服事的主要的重心是放在领导力发展，但是也是针对就是下一代的领袖。
That's wonderful. It's great to hear that you are spending, can I say, the rest of your life and invested on training leadership. That is so wonderful. And that would actually brings me to the second question that I have. Baby.
OK， 很高兴，就是很开心能够听到老师他将自己剩下来的时间，就是可以说是余生啦，致力于这个领导力的培训。那我的第二个问题呢是
，Now, on your website, Bible-centered leadership, I know that you have a database of 1,090 leadership conversations. And could you tell us what do you intend to do with this database, and how could we as a church leader be benefited from this database?
我知道老师的网站 BibleCenterLeadership.com 上面有提到1090个领导力对话。我想知道你打算是如何使用这样的数据库，让教会的领袖能够从中得着祝福。
Well, let me say first of all that the website is only available in English.
首先我要澄清一下，这个网站是全英文的。
And we hope to be able to make some upgrades to that website over this next year.
我们希望明年能够做一些更新。
But one of the things that I was committed to doing in writing this book was to try to make my research available for anyone.
但是我写作这本书的一个目的，就是希望这些我研究的这些结果能够让更多的人能够得到这样的资料。
So we took the research and loaded it into a database and made it searchable on the site.
所以我把我的研究结果录入到这样的一个数据库里面，让人可以搜索到。
So you can search for leadership conversations in the Bible.
所以你就可以从中搜索到圣经当中的领导力对话。
And you can filter the search by book of the Bible, or by leader in the Bible, or by leadership era in the Bible.
所以你可以通过书卷名，或是领袖，或者是领袖的一些犯的错误，然后来搜索到这些不同的领导力对话。
And my hope is that in searching through there, a person would be able to choose a biblical leader, look at the leadership conversations that are associated with that leader, and do some further study on their own.
所以我期待的是大家去搜到其中一个你要看的，然后从这个领导力对话当中学习其中的一些领导力。
I might mention also that we have a Bible knowledge test on our site. Again, it's only in English.
在网站上我们还有一个圣经知识问答，不过也是英文版的。
But there's a 300 question test, and you can get a score for yourself and see how your knowledge of the Bible is in all the major categories of the Bible.
里面有300个问题，你可以自己去测一下，你能得到多少分，然后看看你对圣经不同的一些知识上面的所得的知识怎么样。
The Bible test was developed by Dr. Clinton, and with his permission, we have made it available there for free.
这个测试题是由克林顿博士提供的，他允许我们能够免费的提供给大家。
Great. Now, I saw 2 questions from our attendees here, and these are 2 good questions, by the way. Bebe, can you see the question? The 2 questions?
Yes.
Okay. 我们先主要看第2条哈。第2条。This, Bebe, can you interpret this? Can you just read the questions and then you translate the question back to Dr. Moore?
Okay. Now the next question from our attendee is, I'll read it in Chinese first. 摩尔博士讲到研经的方法，可以稍微介绍一下您写10大对话这本书研经过程采用的方法吗？You mentioned the approaches of Bible study, and could you give us some explanation or introduce the approaches you use when you are writing this book of Bible study?
Yes. In the last chapter of the book, I introduce an approach to Bible-centered leadership.
在这本书的最后一章，我就讲到了这个研经采用的方法。
It's referred to as an equipping formula. That's the name that Dr. Clinton gave it.
用的一个名称是装备模式，是克林顿博士提出的一个概念。
And it looks at 4 different ways of engaging the Bible.
他提出了4种来研究圣经的方法。
The first one is for devotional study.
第一种是用于灵修。
And there are many different approaches that people use to read the Bible devotionally to develop intimacy with God and connect with His Word.
这种方式呢，是人们通过读经来进行灵修，跟神建立亲密的关系，跟神有连结。
A second category is referred to as familiarity reading.
第二种称为熟悉度的一个读经。
Familiarity reading is simply reading through the Bible to develop wider understanding and familiarity with the whole Bible.
这种方式是通读圣经，让你对整本圣经有一个大的概念的认识。
A third category is referred to as in-depth study.
第三种是深度研经。
The in-depth study requires a little bit more focus and a new set of skills.
这个就需要有一些技巧。
And it includes an in-depth study on a biblical character.
包括就是你关注圣经的人物。
Or an in-depth study on a book of the Bible.
还有不同的关注点，关注人物或者关注不同的书卷。
Or an in-depth study on a specific passage in the Bible.
或者是专门专注于圣经当中某一段。
The fourth approach is referred to as situational study.
第4种的方法称为情境式研经。
And that is generally a little bit more topically based.
这是以话题为导向的。
And it often is driven or motivated by the specific circumstances or situations that you find yourself in.
这通常是基于你自己所在的具体处境所引起的研经。
And Dr. Clinton's equipping formula would say, over your lifetime as a leader, you should be engaging in all 4 of these different kinds of study.
那克林顿博士认为，作为领袖，你一生当中是需要运用这所有的4种的装备模式，就是研经的方法。
So back to the question more specifically.
所以再具体的回到我们这个问题来说，
I was doing a combination of familiarity reading and situational study.
我做的研经的方法呢，是将第2种通读圣经，就是熟悉度的研经和第4种情境性的研经联系在一起。
So the familiarity reading was going through the entire Bible, chapter by chapter, to document all the leadership conversations.
熟悉度研经的过程就是来通读整本圣经，然后一章一章的来看，记录其中的领导力对话。
Then the situational study was more focused on specific leadership conversations and the topics that were associated with them.
而第4种情境研经呢，是更专注于具体的领袖的对话以及其中所关涉的话题。
And so the 10 conversations in the book, each one is connected with a specific topic.
所以这10大对话呢，每一个都是跟一个具体的话题相联系，主题相联系。
So out of my familiarity reading and my situational study, I identified those themes and built those out as specific chapters.
所以我是通过熟悉度研经和情境式研经，然后找出了这10大对话，然后找出了具体的主题，然后得出了这10章。
There's more information about the equipping formula in the last chapter of the book.
在书中的最后一章对这个装备模式有更多具体的介绍。
Okay. There is another question on the values of biblical leadership and the values of leadership in the world. How different do you see them? Could you help us to understand that?
接下来一个问题是，圣经领导力的价值观和世界上的领导力，老师认为最大的差异是在哪里？你能帮助我们来看看这个问题吗？
Yeah, I think clearly when we look at leaders who are not Jesus followers in the public sphere, there's a difference in their values.
当我们看不信主的这些公开领域的世界上的领袖，我们会发现他们有不同的价值观。
So it's unfortunately way too common to see leaders who are trying to use power for their own selfish gain.
我们经常看到这些领袖是会用他的能力来为自己获益。
But there's an interesting observation that I would make about this.
但是我发现一个很有意思的一点，
Some of the most successful business books that have been written
就是在其中一些非常成功的商业性的这些书籍方面，
actually include some very important biblical principles, even if the author doesn't describe it that way.
里面却包含了非常重要的合乎圣经的原则，即使那个作者他是不信主的。
And I believe the reason that happens is because those biblical principles actually work wherever they're applied.
我认为原因就在于这些圣经原则是普遍适用的。
And so there are books about servant leadership, for example.
比如有服务式的领袖这样的书。
There are books about the importance of integrity and honesty and trust in leadership.
也会讲到领导力当中的正直、诚实还有信任这些品格。
And sometimes these books reference biblical ideas, but many times they don't.
有时候他们会提到圣经当中的概念，但是通常都不会提到。
But I believe the reason those books have been popular is because they are actually communicating biblical truths, and it's those biblical truths that actually work.
我想这些书之所以这么受欢迎、这么畅销，是因为他们其中表达了一些圣经原则，而这些圣经原则是非常管用的。
I'll leave it there for now.
OK，
Okay. Here comes another question. And this question came from 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 5. And this particular verse actually came from the Israelites, 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 5. And the Israelites were talking to Samuel. And they said, "Behold, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to lead us, like all the nations." Now, the question from our attendee is that Samuel can lead Israel. His sons cannot. So they're asking for a king. Can you comment on this?
第二个问题，接下来这个问题是来自于撒母耳记上第8章第5节，就是以色列长老对撒母耳说：“你年纪老迈，你儿子不行你的道，现在求你为我们立一个王，治理我们像列国一样。”问题就是撒母耳他能够带领以色列跟随神，但是他的儿子好像不能。那老师对此怎么看？
Now, may I add this also?
我再补充一点。
You in your talk a few minutes ago, you were saying that we were given the authority to lead because of the spirituality in our life.
前面
Would that have anything to do with this?
前面你提到过，领袖的权柄之所以有权柄，是因为他们的属灵生命。然后你觉得那一点跟这个问题有什么关系吗？
Yes, and of course, I put a whole chapter in the book on this specific leadership conversation. This is the chapter on change, chapter 3, is focused very specifically on this conversation.
我在书中花了整整1章的时间来讨论这个对话，就在第3章中是改变那一章。
And I think the point you make is well taken. The verse says, "Your sons do not walk in your ways."
我们刚刚注意到这节经文里面，撒母耳记上8章第5节说：“你儿子不行你的道。”
And we know that Samuel was a leader marked by godly character.
我们知道撒母耳作为领袖，他是有非常敬虔的品格。
He modeled godly character over time.
他展示了这些属灵的敬虔的品格，而且是在他一生当中都展示出来。
He shared spiritual experiences that he had with God, with the people.
他也跟百姓分享他与神之间的属灵的经验经历。
And God moved through Samuel with gifted power.
所以神就通过赐予撒母耳这些有能力和恩赐来带领百姓。
And in return, Samuel had spiritual authority with those followers.
所以撒母耳就在他的领袖当中获得了这个属灵权柄。
Unfortunately, Samuel's sons did not model godly character.
很可惜，很遗憾的是，撒母耳的儿子并没有示范彰显出这些敬虔的品格。
And as a result, the followers who had given the right to influence to Samuel would not give that right to influence to his sons.
所以呢，那些以色列人，他们的把这个影响力的这个权利给了撒母耳，却没有给他的儿子。
And so they asked for a king.
所以他们要求立王。
And I can say the rest of the story is in chapter 3 of the book.
其他的内容我在书的第3章里面都讲到了。
Well, it's a big question, but allow me just to just take a small aspect of it, just a bite of it, and give it to you. Okay.
Okay.
How do you, as a leader, deal with conflict? I think the question is trying to see how you deal with it in the Chinese context. But you, as non-Chinese, as a Caucasian, how would you do it? How would you deal with conflict as a leader?
这个问题原来是说，在中国的文化、中国的传统、中国式关系的情境下，领袖应该如何面对冲突？但是对于老师来说，可能他不太熟悉。那对老师的问题就是，他在他的处境当中，他作为领袖是如何面对处理冲突的？
Conflict is definitely an inescapable part of leadership because it's dealing with people.
在带领做领导的过程当中，冲突是不可避免的，因为大家都是人。
And it's naive to believe that just because we're trying to follow Jesus that we will not have conflict. We will.
如果你觉得我们是跟随耶稣的人，我们之间就不会有冲突，那就太天真了。我们是会有冲突的。
We can see plenty of examples of that even in the New Testament church.
就是在新约的教会里面，我们都可以看到很多有冲突的一些例子。
I think in any context, regardless of the culture, a spirit of humility is important when dealing with conflict.
我想，无论是在怎样的文化当中，在任何的背景下、文化背景下，很重要的一点就是要有一个谦卑的灵。
And one of the disciplines that I try to practice when I experience conflict with someone else
当我跟别人发生冲突的时候，我试图要做的一个操练是
is to try to begin with this assumption.
是要首先有这样的一个认定。
Maybe it's possible that there's some information that I don't have that if I did have would change the way I feel about this.
可能我并不知道某一部分的信息，如果我知道某一部分的信息的话，我可能就不会有现在这样的态度。
So when someone says something or does something that is offensive to me,
所以如果有人说了一些事情或做了一些事情冒犯到我
instead of immediately reacting to that,
我不会马上做出反应。
if I can stop myself for a moment
如果我能够把自己安静下来一会儿，
and humble myself for a moment
使自己谦卑下来一会儿，
and understand maybe there's something happening here that I don't fully understand, that if I did understand it, it would change how I feel about the situation.
告诉我自己，可能这其中有一些事情是我不明白的。如果我明白了之后，我的感受会是不同的。
And that can allow me to begin in humility to try to find out what other information is happening here that could inform me.
所以我就开始去想，就是谦卑的想，哪一些我不知道的信息是可能会改变我现在的感受。
And I know many times when I have been able to take that approach, I discover something about the situation that changes very much how I feel about it.
很多次，当我采用这种方法、这种操练的时候，我后面都发现了一些事情或者信息是我前面不知道，但是后面完全改变了我对这件事情的感受。
There's another question that I found helpful in this way.
在这个过程当中，还有一个问题是对我自己有帮助的。
The question that I like to ask is, what is it like to be on the other side of me in this situation?
我会这样问自己，在这个情况当中，我的另外一面是什么样子？
And so I like to ask myself, how do I want this person to feel at the end of this conversation?
我希望我们对话完之后，这个人对我产生怎样的感受？
And so I think about the specific person and the specific situation, and how do I want them to feel?
所以我会去思考这个具体的人、具体的情境，然后去想，我希望他们会产生怎样的感受。
And if I think to myself, I want them to feel valued, I want them to feel loved, I want them to feel cared for.
如果我希望他们受到尊重、受到爱、受到关怀，
then it can change how do I need to approach this conversation in order for them to feel that way at the end of it.
这就会帮助我去知道如何改变这个对话，以至于他们最后能够产生这样的感受。
I just want to make one other observation about this, and then I'll stop.
再最后说一点，
One of the lessons that I'm continuing to learn in these situations
在这些冲突的情境当中，我不断学习到的一个功课是，
is that it is easy for me to misunderstand the power difference between me and the other person.
就是我很容易误解我跟那个人之间的权力的差异。
So if the conflict that I'm having is with someone who is a lot younger than me,
如果我的冲突是跟一个比我年轻的多的人，
or the conflict is with someone who's not only younger, but I'm the president and there may be a very entry-level person in the organization.
甚至不只是年轻，而且我作为主席，领袖机构的主席，而他只是作为刚刚入门的一个人。
And the age and influence difference creates a gap, a power distance between me and the other person.
那我跟他之间的年龄的差距就产生了一个权力的不对等。
And I need to pay careful attention to that in order to address the issue in a proper way.
所以我必须非常关注这个权力的差异，以至于我能够用一个合理的、恰当的方式来跟他对话。
So if I can go into it with a spirit of humility,
如果我能够用谦卑的心来面对他，
if I can recognize there might be information I don't have, that when I learn it, it will change how I feel about this.
如果我认识到其中有一些信息事情是我不知道的，当我知道的话，我就会改变我的感受。
And if I can think carefully about how do I want this other person to feel at the end of this conversation,
如果我仔细去思考，我希望这个人在我们对话结束之后有怎样的感受，
and I can pay attention to even the power distance that might be present,
或者我也仔细的去关注我们之间可能存在的一些权力的差异，
all of those things can position me better in dealing with that specific conflict.
所有这些考虑都能够帮助我更好的在那个具体的处境下跟他对话。